Hello, fellow Thunder Wizards. So today we're going to be talking about the true purpose of anger. And I'm going to be explaining to you why anger is not only necessary, but how it is crucial to your healing. But more importantly, in the long run, what anger is trying to do is show you your success. So before I get into that, let me just be very clear about something. I am not trying to say that you should be an angry person. I'm not trying to promote any kind of rageful behavior. Definitely am not trying to promote violence in any way whatsoever. We're just simply talking about the emotion of anger. And there is a difference between anger, resentment, rage, bitterness, cynicism. Those are later secondary reactions to the initial anger. Anger is also not a long-term emotion. So if you are somebody who is watching this because you have anger issues and you are angry a lot of the time, I'm not here to promote that or to defend that or to justify that. Anger is only meant to be a very short-lived emotion in response to perceived threats. That's it. Anything beyond that, and it is at worst extremely destructive, and at best a real waste of your energy. So that's okay if you do have anger issues, because everybody's got something. And I've certainly had my issues with anger, and I'm going to share with you why I'm even talking about this today. Because one of the things that I do here is I try and be transparent with you, and I try and show you that I live what I teach. And so I try and teach by example, not meaning that I'm way up here and you're down there, but that I'm right there with you. I have the same kinds of things that you do, and here's what I do with that and how I use it for my success, my happiness, my harmony, my health, my peace. And so anger is something that is part of that. So I guess let me just get started with the story here. So I've been sharing with you some changes in thoughts recently, and I've, over the past couple of weeks, been seriously considering moving to Australia. And somebody had suggested that to me, and I spent a month in Australia a long time ago when I was in college, and I loved it. It reminded me of, all the best of California. But anyway, I loved it. And somebody suggested a specific area, and I started looking at it, and it was absolutely perfect for me. As you know, my greatest joy in life is to surf. Everything I do, including what I'm doing right now, is so that I can have all of the spare time and all of the resources necessary for me to surf my brains out. That's my entire life is based on that. Everything else is supporting that. So I started taking a look at this area and I started researching it, and wow, not only was it perfect for me, not only were the waves amazing, not only were the beaches empty, and it was surrounded by national park and forests and, no crowds. And it was just my idea of heaven. Not only that, but then I started looking at how much it would cost to live there, and holy crap, I'd live like a king out there. I make all my money off of the internet, things on the internet. So it wouldn't matter where I am, as long as I have internet, I can make money, I can live. And so I started planning it out. I decided that's what I was going to do, and I started planning it out. And then, last night, here it is, 2 weeks later, I decide, hey, maybe it's a good idea if I research what the immigration policies are over there. And I'm thinking, yeah, hey, I'm an American, and like the typical entitled American, I just assumed that, oh yeah, I just call them up and say, hey, I want to move there, and they just roll out the red carpet for me and say, please, and here, do you want anything? Here, do you want some fruit? And then I started reading, and they don't. Australia has a low population for a reason. They don't take in new immigrants, especially people over 50. This is what blew my mind. They do not want to take people over 50 unless you've got like $1 million or more than $1 million to invest, quote, in Australia. Other than that, they don't want you. So I was devastated last night, devastated. And I was so angry. I was so angry I couldn't sleep. I finally got to sleep. I went to the gym. I think it was last night. Went to the gym and tired myself out and got all the rage out on the weights, and then came home and went to bed, and woke up 4 hours later, unable to sleep. And I started doing what it is that I teach you guys to do. This time what I did is I faced southwest, and I did the whole breath posture for as long as I could until I just wiped myself out. And then I went back to sleep. I woke up with a renewed commitment to getting everything that I want in life. And so I don't know how I'm going to make this happen, but I'm committed to make it happen. And, the point is, I'm not going to let it piss me off. I got angry, so don't get me wrong. I got very angry. I didn't, throw a temper tantrum or anything, but I got angry. But here's what I've learned about anger. True anger is trying to show you what it is you really want. Anger is trying to get you to take the next step in your evolution. So the way anger works is that when you are angry, it's supposed to be a flash feeling. It's not supposed to be a feeling that you live with for a long time. I use this example a lot, but this is a perfect example. When you're driving down the road, somebody cuts you off and almost makes you get into an accident. You have a flash of anger. You may yell or scream or, please don't do this because it's dangerous. You may flip somebody off out the window or whatever. But then you get your breath back. You realize you're okay. You realize that there's no other dangers. And then the anger recedes, and then you become grateful that you're alive, and then you forget about it. We have close calls with a lot of things all the time, and we don't spend a lot of time thinking about it. So if anger is something that is sitting within you, and it is boiling under the surface all the time, that is a sign that you are not doing what it is that makes you happy. It's one of the signs of anger. I mean, one of that's one of the things that anger is pointing to. And remember, anger is trying to get you to take action. It's trying to fix a problem. So again, if you are the kind of person that's walking around with rage all the time, and I was one of those people, so I'm not judging you. If you're one of those people that walks around with rage all the time, it means that there's something that you need to take action on. And one of the things that happens, which I started to have happen with me, one of the first things I did was, and to be honest, I haven't even fully investigated it. All I did was search it online and saw that it wasn't going to be a two-step process where I say, I make me a citizen, and they say, yes, thank you. I'm not in their highest echelon of people that they're looking for. And so I got to put some effort into it and maybe get creative or hire immigration lawyer or something like that. But it's going to take some effort. I forgot what I was saying. What I'm trying to say to you is that if you're walking around with anger, there's something that you need to take action on in your life. Anger is a fire, and fire seeks to purify. And in nature, forest fires, when they are doing their job, they burn up all of the old, dead vegetation that chokes off the soil and doesn't promote growth. Forest fires, when they do their job right, they burn off all of the old, dead, or diseased trees and bushes, and then the ashes of that go into the soil, and then the soil has all of these minerals and is ready to grow new plants. So anger within you is trying to do that. It's trying to burn out something that's stale within you. And it's trying to burn that out so that you can then use that as mulch to then grow something new, take you to your next level. So just to give you an example, in my mind, even if I go in worst case scenario, I am so fired up now because I got opened up to this new world. I had gotten happy with my little bubble here. And I could have been happy for the rest of my life. I would always be saying, yeah, but then there's this and then there's that. But that's true about everything. But then I got opened up to this possibility of, beyond my wildest dreams. And what I teach is that if you follow your soul desire, you get things that are beyond your wildest dreams. And so I started going off on that. The thought of that being denied me, first, of course, I got angry. Then I started to mope and started to feel defeated and self-pity. And then everything that I was loving 2 weeks earlier about where I live all of a sudden was really crappy. And I started, not enjoying myself. And I said, hang on a second. All this has done is this has motivated me, made me realize that my time on this planet is short. And okay, so worst case scenario, I go and spend 3 months or 6 months a year in Australia. Well, what does that mean? It means I have to make more money so that I can afford to live where I want to live and then go vacation. And who wouldn't want that? Why can't I enjoy that? And then I said, well, why am I stopping there? There's all kinds of other places. There's Tahiti, there's Fiji, there's Indonesia. There's all kinds of places, and I should just be out there, taking vacations as much as possible, bringing my camera with me, talking to you guys. It all helps me, no matter how I look at it. I get a better life, unless I let it defeat me. If I let it defeat me, then I am that angry victim who walks around blaming this, and then I spend the rest of my life talking about that damn Australian government and why won't they give me what I want. But you have to understand something about how life works. Maybe you don't have to. I very much want you to understand something about how life works. That all of your challenges are designed to point you in the direction that will give you the greatest happiness. You know, the Christians have a phrase, they say, if it's God's will, it's meant to be. I don't use those kinds of words because those are very fatalistic and those can actually help keep you trapped. But I definitely am of the opinion, and it is proven in my life, that, you know, you think you want something. You go after it. If you don't get it, because sometimes you don't get the things that you go after, it means that that's not what you really want. And so when I bump into that, if that, you know, that Perthro rune comes up and that wall comes up and it really is, there's absolutely nothing you can do about this, then I go, okay, so there must be something else that I really want, because this is by my design. And that other thing, I'm not aware of it. Like I wasn't aware 3 weeks ago. I wasn't even aware of the idea of moving to Australia. Wasn't even aware of it. When I became aware of it, it opened up a whole new world for me. And all of a sudden the world got bigger and my life got better. And I, you know, here's the other thing. I'm more motivated now to do my projects and to succeed than ever before. So you're going to see me getting even more ruthless about pointing up to these things and selling my products and my services because people actually do need them. This is the other thing you need to understand. So if this is about, you know, it's a simple one. If this is about anger, about not being successful, not having money in your life, it means that there is something that you want to share with the world that the world needs more than you want to share. I started this Thunder Wizard path and all this stuff. I started it simply for this very reason. I had stuff inside of me that I just couldn't keep bottled up anymore. I felt like an idiot. I felt like an outcast. I felt like nobody understood me. And I did get those reactions in the beginning from some people. But I didn't care. I just had to get it out so that I could think clearly. And lo and behold, to my wondrous surprise and happiness, people responded positively to it. So much so that people say things like, thank you, because of you, I would have killed myself if it wasn't for your teachings. You've helped me so much. You're the only person that have helped me. I'm not saying that because I think that's anything. I don't think of myself that way. I'm not saying that to toot my own horn. That is a reality, and that will be the reality for you. Maybe you'll get that exact response. Maybe you'll get a different one. But the point is that you have your Dharma, you have your Orlog, you have your destiny, you have what I call your soul desire within you. And that has to be expressed. If it doesn't get expressed, what happens is you get angry. But you're really angry at yourself. Here's the thing about anger. Anger is always self-directed, always. You think you're angry at somebody else, but you're not. You're angry at yourself. Maybe you don't see that yet, but trust me, that's what's going on. If it's because somebody actually did do something to you, you're angry at yourself for letting it happen. If it's because you're not getting what you want, you're angry at yourself for wanting things you can't have and or not being able to get it. Or like I'm beating myself up for like, why didn't I think of this 10 years ago? Well, because 10 years ago, I was stuck in a horrible marriage, and now I'm mad at myself. Why did I get married to somebody that that didn't have my best interest at heart? And gosh, if I had thought of this 20 years ago, so that's where my anger wants to take me. But that's not what your highest destiny wants for you. For me, my highest destiny is creating something. And the anger is the flame underneath that's bringing me to a boil, which is going to purify me and drive me in a new direction and motivate me. So you're going to see. You're going to see a lot more stuff is going to come out. I'm going to finish the projects that I started. I said I was going to do a few different things. I am going to power through and make those things happen. I'm still going to go to Australia, and I'm going to surf my brains out for 2 weeks. Hopefully there's waves there. So, and I'm going to, if that's all I get, I will be grateful for it and I will consume every little bit of it. I will remember all of it. And then I will take that and I will surf some more and I'll move somewhere else or I'll travel somewhere else. But I refuse to let life get me down. I just refuse to do it. And that's another thing. That's another positive, constructive use of anger. I refuse to allow myself to get old, to get sick, to get angry, to not have everything that I want. I refuse. That comes from that anger within me. Now, you may not be as fiery as me. I am astrology.thunderwizard.com. I am a Leo, which is a fire sign in Vedic astrology. I have Mars in the third house, which is my communication, which is my Aruda, which is what will bring me the greatest success, how I need to express myself. All that is fire. That's who I am. You may be different, but the principle is still the same, whether it's sadness, depression, you name it. However it is that you respond in a negative, self-destructive way, those feelings are trying to tell you that you need to be going in a different direction. Whatever you do, don't stay still. Get moving towards what it is you really want. So we can talk about anger. We can talk about how anger is spiritual. Let me go on and talk about that for a second. Let me again first address, there are people out there who like to justify their rage. And that is nothing more than being a victim. And I have no tolerance for victims. And again, that's my projection. Some people have compassion, and to be honest, one of the things that I'm wanting to work towards is to have more compassion. I'm still going to be who I am, but I'm working towards that. Don't hold me to that. We'll see what happens. But I don't have any compassion for myself when I get into a victim mentality, because number one, it serves no purpose. What I found out is that being rageful serves no purpose. Feeling sorry for yourself definitely serves no purpose. Obsessing over things you can't control, stressing yourself out, all of those, those emotions that when people are in them, they think that those emotions are somehow going to do something for them. And they never do, unless you take action on them immediately. If they come up and you take action on them and you are able to get honest with yourself immediately about what's going on, then they serve a great purpose. Then they can fuel you. But most of the time, maybe that's not true. A lot of the time, people just don't do that. And, when it comes to spirituality, again, as you know, there is nothing spiritual about denying your feelings. In fact, it is the antithesis of spirituality to deny your feelings. And that's because we've been taught for the past 1,000 to 2,000 years, depending on where your ancestors came from, we've been taught that spiritual people don't have negative emotions. They don't have anger, they don't have sadness, they don't feel sorry for themselves. Have you ever been around people like that when you're down and you're sad, they don't want you to feel that way. Come on, buck up. Hey, turn that frown upside down. Come on, what's wrong with you? They don't like, if you're angry, they don't want to be around you if you're angry. He's such an angry person. I'm a unique person. One thing I don't like, I'm like everybody else. One thing I don't like is when people attack me personally. I get very reactive to personal attacks. But if I'm with somebody who can own their anger, I actually become, if it's a woman, I get turned on, because that is the most constructive thing for intimacy, is somebody who can say, when you said such and such, it angered me, or I'm feeling angry with you right now, or I'm really angry about this. Hang on, somebody's at my door. Hang on. Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. I can't run in the middle of the video. Sorry. I appreciate it. Thank you. Sure. Okay, so that was a nice neighbor doing a nice thing for me. In any case, but I'm talking to you right now. So actually, as I was saying, when somebody, especially a woman, if I'm like in a relationship with a woman, if she has the ability to tell me that she's angry and she can own it, then what ends up happening is that I feel very turned on. I feel very close to them. And then I feel really motivated to go, wow, what was it that I did? Because I don't want to do that. I don't want to anger you. Now that's different if they start attacking me. Then, trust me, I'm the last person you want to get in a fight with. But we live in a society where we're not allowed to do that. That, especially, speaking of which, especially women. Women are taught not to have anger. And this is something that I spend a lot of time with my female clients, is helping them acknowledge their anger and that they have a right to feeling angry and acknowledging that, what's happened to them. Now, they do have to process that and use that, but that's one of the biggest hindrances to following your true path. Because many times you don't know what your true path is until you confront your anger. And you acknowledge it and you analyze it and you understand what it is that you're angry about. Because it's, you have to go past, I'm angry at so-and-so for doing this. And then you have to get to the part of where you're angry at yourself. And then you're going to find out what it is that you're not doing. And then the anger becomes motivation. The anger, now I am motivated. I am motivated more than ever to get the most out of my life. And when I'm like this, it's good for me physically. It's good for me professionally. It's good for me on all levels. And it's very healing. Anger is also something that is necessary for our healing. When you have an infection, like a bacteria or a virus, what ends up happening is that you get a fever. The fever is trying to burn away the infection. So anger is also here to try and help you burn away whatever you've allowed yourself to be infected by, other people. Now, there's something called unconscious anger. So remember, we have three minds. We have the conscious mind, which is what I'm using to talk to you now. Your conscious mind is exactly what it sounds like. You have your unconscious mind. Your unconscious mind is the part of your mind that you are not aware of. So if somebody says to you, you're unconsciously angry, and you go, I am not. I'm not angry. If you feel like you need to defend yourself, that's a pretty sure sign you're an unconscious angry person. And then there's the subconscious mind, which is in between the two. And that's a whole other subject. If somebody truly is comfortable with whatever somebody is saying about them, I could talk about some things going on in the media right now, but, when I see people get furious when somebody brings to them a credible question about them, that's oftentimes a sign of guilt right there. It's also a sign of unconscious resistance. Because if you're truly conscious and somebody comes to you and says, you strike me as a very unconsciously angry person, and you go, wow, if that's true, I'm not aware of it. That's the sign of somebody who has a pretty good handle on where they're at. Unless, of course, they've turned that into a shtick. But unconscious rage is in my experience, this is just my experience, unconscious rage is the leading factor in physical illness. Unconscious sadness, depression. Depression, by the way, is not feeling sad. That's feeling sad. That's grief. That's normal. My fiance passed away almost a year ago, and I was in major grief. I wasn't depressed. I was in grief. Now, it could have turned into depression if I tried to deny it or if I did things to try and stuff my feelings down, which thankfully I didn't. I came very close, but I didn't. But depression is actually not feeling sad. It's just not being able to function. Their experience is that they're just listless. They can't get out of bed. They don't know what they're doing, and they're foggy and hazy. That's that's clinically depressed. But these are unconscious emotions, and unconscious negative emotions, in my experience, is the cause of all physical illness. The good news about that is if you have the ability and the balls, quite frankly, to face those feelings, then you can feel emotionally horrible and be very physically healthy. And so anger is one of those. You know, when anger is stuffed down because you're shamed about anger, or because you want to be accepted, or whatever reason, then that anger has to go somewhere, and it goes into your body. And where it gets lodged in your body will represent what it is you're angry about and what the issue is. And then if it continues to stay unconscious, then it will manifest in the physical tissues as cancer, as all kinds of things. I dealt with that too. And what started happening today is that I started getting pains in my right leg. If I get pains in my right leg, it means that I feel held back about my going forward in my life. So anyway, those are some thoughts about anger and how to use them. I'm happy to take any questions you have. I would at this point take a break, but since I got up and walked and had to answer the door, I will not force you to wait for me anymore. So if you have questions, this is a live Q&A. If you're new to the channel, I want to only deal with you on a question and answer. I do not want your comments, your statements. I don't want dialogue between you guys. I only want to see your questions, and that's so that I can be of best help to other people. Otherwise, I'm scrolling through all of the people pontificating their opinions. And while you have wonderful opinions, that's not what I'm here to do. I'm here to answer questions. So, Crone Walking Woman has given $2. Thank you. Thank you very much. Jeff Greening has given $10. Thank you, sir. Let's see here. Now, looking for the questions. Black Earth Productions. Question: where can I find a shamanic cross like the one you have? I can't find them anywhere. Where did I find? You know what? You're not going to believe when I tell you. You know that craft store called Michael's? I mean, this isn't even like, it's like that fake lead, that whatever you call that stuff. It's barely metal at all. It feels like plastic in my hands. I got it at Michael's, and I got I made a little necklace out of it. With the twine that they have there. So Michael's Craft or something, I don't know what it's called, but I don't know if they have that where you are, but that's where I got it. You can go to any craft store that has like beads and twine and all that kind of stuff, and you should be able to find this and some other cool stuff really cheap. And thank you for asking, by the way. The reason why I'm wearing this is that you think it's a Celtic cross, but it's actually not a Christian symbol. It was hijacked by Christianity, because the actual Christian cross is longer this way, it comes down this way. But the Celtic cross represents balance on the external environment, and it represents balance of the 5 elements. So I don't think I have the 5 elements here. I wish I did, but I don't. Do I have the elements? No. So, what is that? So when you look at the medicine wheel or the thunder wheel, look at the cross that's there. There's 8 spokes, but look at the middle spokes there, down the center and through the center. So that represents balance on the physical, because this is the 5 elements here. So the 5 elements are, let's see, for you, anyway, it may be backwards for you, but you've got, on one side, you've got ether, which is in the east. You have fire in the south. You have air in the west, water in the north, and earth in the middle. When you have this, you have balance of all of the 5 elements, which means balance on the physical. So this was the original symbol of the shaman. In fact, in the most ancient Chinese calligraphy, the character for shaman, which is pronounced Wu, is this. It's just this. It's just a Celtic cross. Because what does a shaman do? A shaman brings balance. A shaman heals and brings balance and balances on the physical level. So anyway, thank you for your question. I can usually find something in all of your questions here. All right, let's see. So Rose New Blueprint 4848, welcome to the channel. I would recommend and appreciate if you reserve your comments to questions only. So that way I can help those who have questions and can help them. All right, so that's it for the time being. Now I will take a short break and come back in a couple minutes, and we'll continue my diatribe about something or other. So anyway, be right back. Okay, I'm back. So, what am I doing here? Okay, so I'm back. And there's a reason why I put this GIF of angry Hulk Homer. Number one, because it's funny. I wish we could hear the vocals on that. But there's a reason why the Hulk is green, in case you didn't know. There's a reason why people use the word green with envy. And that is because green is the color of the ether element, the wood element in Chinese, same thing, ether, wood, same thing. And it is the color for the liver. Now, as you know, the liver does all kinds of things. It filters the body of all kinds of toxins and whatnot. But the liver is actually more than that. It is a very powerful spiritual organ that is used to create your boundaries. So your boundaries, your physical, like the physical boundaries that you have, your energy boundaries that protect you from all kinds of things, including pathogens, airborne pathogens and whatnot. But they also protect you from other people's energy. They protect you from negative entities. Your liver is what creates that. And resentment is held in the liver. So when anger is not dealt with immediately, is not processed immediately, if you don't take action on what the anger is trying to get you to do, then you end up going into a resentment. A resentment, it's really simple. You resent, you re-feel, resentiment, you re-feel things. So you keep reliving the anger. Remember, anger is only supposed to flash and then go away. Like forest fires. Forest fires are supposed to sweep through and then that's it. If the fire keeps going and going and going, then that's a bad thing. We just want it to go through and burn the initial detritus out of the way and then make room for the rest of things to grow. So your anger is the same. So when you hold on to it and you don't take the action that the anger is trying to get you to do to protect yourself, it goes into your liver. So there's a reason why the Hulk wasn't originally green. The Hulk was like gray looking or something like that. And I don't know what their thought process was. I'm sure they weren't thinking about Chinese medicine when they said, no, let's make him green because the liver is green. But that's why we have that. This stuff doesn't come out of nowhere. So anger also, if you have continuous anger, it means guaranteed that you have boundary issues. Guaranteed. In fact, going back to the liver thing, the Chinese say that when somebody has a lot of resentment and anger to the point where they can't control themselves, what ends up happening is that it creates like a demon. And so you can be in the room and you can feel it. You can feel when somebody's really angry, right? Even if you don't know what's going on. It's because that person has created an anger demon out of there. Because the liver is extremely powerful. And so all that power is working against you when you live in resentment. So anyway, let's see if there's any more questions to be had. All right, so let's see here. Let's see. Question, Dharma child, all right. Dharma child, question. When anger arises and is recognized by conscious mind, where should one shift focus, or how do you pivot from this feeling for empowerment? So, I'm hearing in your question, I know you may not have meant that, maybe I'm misreading it, but what I'm hearing in your question is the desire to avoid your feelings. How should one shift focus, or how do you pivot from this feeling? So you don't shift. I really want to reflect that back to you. I want you to address that is somewhere along the line you were taught that when you're angry, you have to get out of that feeling as quickly as possible. And remember what I've been saying, that anger is there to, number one, tell you that you feel that your boundaries have been breached. You feel that you are in danger and that there's something that you want that you're not getting. And your anger is telling you to take action towards what you want. Let me give you an example of this. One of the reasons I do what I do is because I would, read books, or I'd go onto YouTube, years ago, and people would be talking about something. And I would be one of those trolls. I would go on and I'd troll them. I'd say, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. And it was when I sat with myself, I realized the reason I'm doing that is because, yeah, I do have something to say. And yeah, they're not getting all of it. And instead of wasting my time, getting in flame wars on, whatever it is, why don't I just tell it as I understand it? That was my anger trying to push me towards my highest truth, my highest destiny, which is to be a teacher. So understand that having anger doesn't make you good or bad. It's just a feeling. And it's trying to get you to do something. And oftentimes it's coming from your soul desire. Let me give you another example. When I was much younger, like in my early 20s, I was an actor boy, and I went to a famous comedy club here in Los Angeles, and some big names came through, including Robin Williams dropped by. Robin Williams came on stage and he started doing it, and I was slicing everybody to pieces in my mind. And some of it was worthy because one guy was a weather, one of the weather commentator guys, and just because he was a celebrity, he got to go on stage, and he was really bad, and it was pathetic. And I just anyway, so I left there destroying all of these comics. Now I'd never done stand-up comedy in my life, and I stopped myself and I said, hang on. Why don't I back up what I say? Why don't I go do it and see how easy it is? And then if I can do it and be better than them, then I have a right to criticize them. And I did that. And I was a stand-up comic for years. And on one hand, I realized how hard it was. And on the other hand, that was something that I needed to do. That was part of my training. Believe it or not, it was part of my shamanic training. So I stopped myself without, I didn't know back then that I was doing a shamanic exercise on myself, but I stopped myself and I said, instead of being angry, why don't I go do it? So my anger pushed me towards taking action towards what I want. Now, in your question, when anger arises and is recognized by the conscious mind, I would want to ask a bunch of questions, like, what are you angry about? What's happening? But the first thing, the only really helpful thing I can say is that you're operating from a false assumption. Remember, everything is an assumption. If you have a false assumption about yourself, about reality, about how the universe works, then every conclusion that you make on top of that assumption is going to be inaccurate. The assumption I hear in that is that you're supposed to get rid of that feeling. And I'm not saying that. Listen, I am still feeling the anger that came up last night. But because I acknowledged it and because I did some work, so the first thing you can do is you can do the Hool breath. That's one thing I can do. Here's if you want one thing to do for anger, face southwest and do the Hool breath. If you're not familiar with the Hool breath, it's written down here. Go and look it up. You can look up Hool breath, Huul, on YouTube. I mean, normally you have to search within my channel to find that, but even if you just go on YouTube and type that in, you will find it. Go do that and face the southwest. That will ground you. In terms of the elements, there are two elements that are master elements. They're like bookmarks, or whatever, bookends. One is ether, which is from where all the elements come from. So you can work with ether as well. But earth contains all of the elements. So ether creates all of them, and earth contains them. When you do the Hool breath, you are doing very powerful earth element energy work, which will help the liver to figure out what it's doing and to help ground the energy. So if you're talking about that you're just walking around your house and you become aware of anger and you don't know what to do with it, go do the Hool breath. Here's another thing that you can do. Take a look at your resentments. And if you're familiar with it, in fact, you can go online and just search for fourth step resentment worksheet. I don't care if you've done 12 steps or you don't like them, whatever. The fourth step, which is looking at your resentments and what has caused your resentments, is a brilliant, in fact, in my experience, it's the most brilliant psychological tool for resolving all kinds of issues. So looking at your resentments, if by your question, I'm imagining you walking around your house and you're angry at so-and-so, and maybe it's 10 years old or whatever, then you got to acknowledge what survival instincts are being triggered that is making you angry. Because if you don't work through that and you don't acknowledge what survival instincts you feel are being threatened, then you're going to replay it, which is resentment, which means that throughout your life, you're always going to be manifesting people who are going to push that button because you're unconsciously trying to work through it. But it doesn't work. Most of the time what happens is we just keep reliving it over and over and over. And we leave that person and we attract another person who will push the same button in us. And it was something that happened way back when we were formulating our boundaries as kids and blah, blah, blah. So that's the second thing I can tell you is take a look at your resentments, specifically what survival instincts have been triggered by it. And this is an embarrassing thing to do because let's say, let me try and think of one. I talked about my dad. My dad was an alcoholic. He drank himself to death. And I was very angry with him, as would be understandable. He was never there for me. He, promised things that didn't fulfill him. He did all kinds of weird head games on me. All kinds of stuff. And I had a lot of resentments towards him. And when I did that fourth step inventory on him and I looked at my resentments, you find out sometimes that, hey, you know what? I didn't do anything to deserve that. I was just a little kid. But I still had a part in it. And the survival instincts that were stimulated by that were across the board because your father's love and approval becomes the template for you to be able to go out in life and be successful. And so my inability to deal with that stimulated me on all kinds of levels. I didn't feel secure about myself. I didn't feel worthy. It affected my finances because I ended up, trying to please him by being a screw up so that, I wouldn't offend him even after he was dead. All these things. These are the survival instincts that get stimulated that can keep you in continual resentment. So that's the other thing I could tell you. You're trying to ask me, if I'm reading this right, Dharma child, you're trying to ask me to give you some tip in the moment to not have your anger. And I can't give you that because your anger is like anything, when you need to take a dump, the last thing somebody should tell you is, no, hold that in. Hold the feces in for another year. Do not dump. Do not go to the bathroom. You're going to make yourself sick. If you've got anger, you have to feel it. So please don't try and get rid of it. Acknowledge, first and foremost, what your survival instincts are that feel threatened, and then take a look at your part. Now, my part in it with my father was that I became aware that I was being unfair to him because he has the right to drink himself to death. If that's what he wants to do, he has the right to do that. It would have been nice if he had treated me like the way I deserved. But so what? I can't control him. It's wrong of me to expect him to be anything other than he was. Now, that's not denial. Denial talks like that in the beginning. But that's when somebody who's in denial of their anger and they feel guilty and they're trying to pretend they're not angry. So they justify what the other person's doing. That's not what I'm talking about here. But when you get to that point and you realize where you're being insane, because that's the bottom line. I was being insane. He was who he was, and it was insanity of me to think that he should have been something else. And when you become aware of that, then you can let it go. So without any more specifics about why you're angry, I don't know what else to tell you, but that was a great question. Let's see, what else? John Koichi, if you've got a question, please write question. Otherwise, I can't tell your sentence from other people who are just spouting their opinion, and I try and bypass them. You say, is anger a reaction to a lost soul possession of the vessel? Where did you get that? That anger, as I said, anger is a reaction to your perception that you are in danger. That's all anger is. If it's resentment, meaning you carry it with you for years and years and years, that's something else. Anger is just simply a reaction to a perceived threat. It is a normal and necessary and healing thing. You need it. This is a very intellectualized question. You know, that if I were to say yes, anger is a reaction to a lost soul possession of the vessel, how does that help you in life? That just keeps you stuck in your head. And I want you to get out of your head and into your feelings. Because we are emotional beings. We are called in the ancient Germanic tongue, Mon. Mon means mind, and mind means moon. Moon is emotions, among other things. You are an emotional being. Your essence is to react and interface with everything from an emotional standpoint. Consciousness is the ability to have all of your feelings and take conscious action as a result of them. Immaturity is reacting to your emotions without any awareness. Consciousness is having the ability to have all of your feelings and take conscious action. In the middle is what most people do, which is they try to avoid their feelings or stuff them down because they don't know how to have feelings without taking action on them. So they try to just neutralize the feelings altogether. And again, that's what causes illness. So if you want to be healthy, you've got to have your anger, you've got to have your pain, you've got to have your grief, you've got to have your frustration, you've got to have your insecurity, all those things. You've got to have them. Being brave is not the absence of fear. And being conscious is not the absence of emotions. And there's a lot of teachers out there who will tell you that when you get to a place and you don't have any, I could name a few authors that just drive me crazy. They're in denial. They're robots, and people eat it up because they, number one, want to look spiritual, and number two, they want somebody to tell them that they can tune out of their feelings, which is why people use mind-altering chemicals and call it spirituality, because they feel when they're free of their negative emotions on a conscious level, they feel like they're spiritual. But spirituality is having all of that, feeling it and smelling it and tasting it and still taking conscious action. That is true spirituality. That's true, maturity. Dude with a hat, question. Berserkers, as I understand, use their rage in special rituals and in literal battle. Is seeing the red, as some call it, connected? I'm not sure what you mean by that last sentence. Is seeing the red, as some call it, connected? I have a berserkers means bear shirt. So there was a shamanic shape-shifting that went into this. And berserkers were and what was the other? Ulfhednar, which were guys who wore wolf hats. They took on the spirit of the wolf. Berserkers took on the mantle of the bear. So, there was a point when we needed to protect ourselves from people that want to come in and rape and pillage and steal. And, sometimes that's what violence is for. I have taken a vow never to use violence under any circumstances, and that's for my own sake. So I'm not sure how to answer that question. Seeing red, I don't know what you mean. I'm not, are you trying to connect, is anger spiritual because berserkers used their rage? But we might have a different idea of what rage was. And I would go so far as to say that being a berserker or an Ulfhednar had as much value whether or not you used it in battle. That it had its own value, and I don't believe it was about just a place to vent your human rage, although it could have been. I wasn't there. So, again, it's kind of like, it's hard for me to answer questions when I haven't been there. I wasn't there, and I'm not a berserker to my knowledge, so I can't really answer that question intelligently, so that's the best I can do. All right. Eddie Endress question. When in apprenticeship with you, would you take our ethnicity into consideration with what cultural practices you share with us? As an example, only teach students with African background. Why would I only teach students with an African background? And then you say African drumming. So the short answer is no, I don't take anybody's ethnicity into it. Anybody who comes to me who wants to learn, it is my responsibility to teach them. Ethnicity is listen, as you can see, I am extremely proud of my ethnic heritage. I'm not proud with what my ethnic ancestors have done over the past 1,000, 2,000 years. Well, I'll just put it this way. White people have fucked things up very badly. There's a reason why everybody walks around calling us white devils. There's a reason for it. And I'm man enough that I'm not so insecure that I need to pretend that that isn't there. When my people make a mistake, I have no problem pointing it out. And it doesn't affect me, it doesn't make me bad, and it doesn't make them racist for honestly pointing out when people fuck up. And I do have ethnic energy in me. There is DNA within me that connects me back to my ethnic ancestors, and I honor them, especially the pre-Christian ones. But if we believe in reincarnation, then there has to be the possibility that you've had multiple ethnicities throughout your multiple lifetimes. I try to look at the long haul. I'm looking at the soul. I'm a spiritual teacher, which means that the focus is the soul. And so do I take somebody's ethnicity? I don't take anybody's ethnicity. The only thing that I take into consideration is whether or not somebody has permission to teach what they teach. In terms of African drumming, I have been given permission by 2 Yoruba West African drum masters. And in fact, let me share a story with you. We got a lot of ridiculous, racist bullshit on all sides here in this country. My teacher, my African teacher, one of them, was born in Nigeria, born and raised in Nigeria. And he teaches anybody who comes to him. And he went and took his troop of drummers into an ethnic area, into the hood, and it was mostly African Americans who had a chip on their shoulder because they're in our country, and I won't get into that, and they've gone through whatever they've gone through in their recent ancestry. But they blackballed him because he had white and Jewish people in his troop. And he said those guys are racist. So racism is just so messed up in our country. So when I would play, I remember I was in Idaho and I was playing with a troop of drummers, and we were having a drum circle, and there were people there that didn't know what they did, and some people that did, and there were some guys from, I think they were from Senegal, and they were there, and they came walking by, and they saw us play, and they saw me play. And they could tell by watching me play that I had trained in the traditional style, and I knew what I was doing. And they looked at each other and they pointed at me, like, look at this guy. They treated me like an elder. They came to me and treated me with such respect that, and it's because they didn't live in this racist society with all that garbage that flies around. They didn't have that in their history, so they didn't see what color I was. They saw that I was honoring the tradition. And because of that, they treated me with respect. And there were African guys there from Africa who were playing with us who weren't trained, and they didn't give those guys the same respect as they gave me. So let's please all drop this shit. I mean, I don't know you, Eddie. I don't know if you're asking me because you have an ethnic or a racial axe to grind, or because you, like me, think it's ridiculous and you want to get rid of it. But let's please drop that shit. It's just pointless. I can guarantee whoever you are, two things. One, you were another ethnicity in another life, and guaranteed, unless you achieve enlightenment or Valhalla in this life, there is a better than half chance you're going to end up another ethnicity in your next life. And the second thing I can tell you is, even if you are like me, they don't get much whiter than me. You go far enough back in my ethnic history, you're going to find a black-skinned African guy, because that's where we all came from. The first people that ended up in Europe who are my direct ancestors were not white-skinned, blue-eyed, blonde-haired people. So let's just drop that. I mean, it's just, I could go on. It just really annoys me. I don't know you, so I don't know why you're asking the question, so I won't launch my anger at you, but there's the best I can answer that question. Let's move on. Master in Midgard question, can you speak on the subject of Har, Jafnhar, and Thridi? Nope, because to be honest with you, are those the, yeah, so those are the three ones. So that is for another time, because I am teaching a practice about the method of holding the three ones, which are the three Dantians. Short is that that's the, I forget the guy's name, King Gilf. King Gilf went into, you don't realize it because the myth doesn't say it, but he's somebody who went into a shamanic trance. And in a shamanic trance, he went to Valhalla, the highest realm of the brain, and he saw the three ones. The three ones are the three selves, the higher, the middle, and the lower self. They also congregate in the middle of the brain, and they talk to each other. And this is, one of the highest realms of spiritual practice, is to be able to commune with the three ones. You meditate and go inward and go into the center part of your brain, and you commune with the three ones. That's what that myth is. King Gilf went and saw the three ones, which is Odin, Vili, and Ve. Odin, Vili, and Ve represents the three ones, as well as the three ones congregating and communicating with themselves in the brain. But that's a much larger subject for another time. Brandon Little question. If one is shamanic journeying and comes across a intense, furious energy that they couldn't possibly comprehend, I'm thinking there's another question there. I don't see it. So I don't know what your question is because you didn't finish it. So sorry. Matt Sweeney's beer question. Can working with our dwarves help direct anger? Yes. I don't see any reason why not. But only if you have acknowledged what your anger is trying to do. In my case, I'm not sure what my anger is provoking me to do. I've got a few ideas, and the more I think about it, the more excited I get and the more determined I get. If I end up, see, here's an example, and again, I have no idea if this is what's going to happen, but when I was looking at visas to live over in Australia, I started looking for the ones that I could possibly qualify for. Because I'm in this like black hole that I don't qualify for anything. I'm the wrong age. They don't want anybody over 50, all kinds of other things. It's just, so I'm in this hole that they don't even want to look at me unless I have something really outstanding or really special. So I'm looking for all the different kinds of visas, and there's a couple of them. One is like exceptional talent, and another one is religious something or other. So the exceptional talent is, basically as I read it now, I think is it, are you a celebrity? Which I'm not. Maybe I am, I don't know, but I'm not a celebrity. And then I said maybe I am because maybe I could tweak it to look like I was, but forget it. And then the other one was the religious one, and I started looking at that. And that one is if you are a religious practitioner and you are deriving or giving benefit to Australians who will benefit from your being there, kind of a thing. And I thought that's something I think I might be able to work on. So while I'm talking about it, any Australians living in Australia, contact me at this address because I don't know, maybe I can compile a bunch of recommendations and that'll help. So go to, hang on just a second, Shaman Surfer at outlook.com. Let me just double check to make sure that that's the right one. Just one second. Just give me a second here. Because I don't want a bunch of people emailing me on my business email, which happens all the time. So that is, who am I here? I am Shaman Surfer. Right, so that's it. Shaman Surfer at outlook.com. Email me there if you are a resident in Australia, and give me your contact info in case I need people to back me up on that, character references and what have you. I may do nothing with it. I may not need your help, but so can working with your dwarves help direct the anger if you know what it is you're being stimulated to do? So I'm clear. I'm stimulated to do that. As I said, that could be a possibility. And then I started thinking about, maybe I need to get honest with, I need to start teaching again, like teaching classes, like teaching drumming, teaching spirit fighting, teaching shamanism, and doing it in Australia, the oldest continent on the planet, the home of the rainbow serpent who created the universe, surrounded by, I start going into these really amazing directions about, and then I think maybe that's where my soul is wanting me to go. And I'm bumping into this so that I'll be forced to do that, because otherwise I would have just gone and do what I do now, which is, listen, I just want to surf all day. Just let me in and let me live here for cheap and I'll just surf all day. But that may not be what my greatest desire is. So it's getting me thinking about that, and now I'm actually getting excited about that, because I'm not motivated to teach in LA. I'm just not. It's just, but I can see myself teaching and doing seminars in Australia like crazy. I would have a blast doing that. So this is what I mean. You've got to see where your anger is trying to take you. So now that I have a goal, I'm absolutely going to get my dwarves to work towards manifesting that. Absolutely. Let's see, what else? Dharma Child, question. I do Hool breath every day. I acknowledge anger, frustration when it arises instead of denying it. Good for you. I was asking where you direct your focus after acknowledging the feeling. I think you answered it. Very good. Yeah, so don't get offended if I don't answer your question right. But everything that stimulates us, pushes us, and gets me talking in ways that I just have in my head, but it stimulates me to talk about it. Anyway, let's see what else. Dude with a hat, question. The red is when a spike in blood pressure causes blood to enter the eye. Oh, I had no idea. Some people are prone to it in extreme states and claim something akin to an entity takes control. Is this connected? I don't know. I mean, I know people that get like that anyway. There are people that are like that. When they get angry. Here's the thing, this is Christians, this is a generalized statement, but one of the things I found about Christians is that they had major unresolved rage. You know how I knew that? Because they had bags under their eyes with just deep creases. Have you seen guys that are in their 30s that have bags that look like they're old men? You know, let's see. I got some bags under my eyes, but I don't have those deep creases that some people have. And I remember seeing that in my brother when he was in his 30s. Big bags with deep creases under them. And he had major unresolved anger. And you see people like that walk around that have the bloodshot eyes. That just means that they have an abundance of anger. Does that mean that an entity has taken control? Well, the thing about entities is that they are attracted. We're talking about negative entities. They are attracted to intense emotions like that. I'll give you an example. A friend of mine shared this story with me. He became really, really, really depressed, not in the clinical sense, but he became very, very sad. And he started indulging it, like feeling really sad, like really deeply sad and suicidal, and he really indulged in it. And he said he all of a sudden felt something enter the room, and this black mass came towards him, and he could feel that the mass was attracted to this deep, self-indulgent self-pity. And that woke him up, and he said, I'm fine, everything's fine, and he snapped himself out of it. It doesn't mean that he denied his feelings, he just stopped indulging in the self-pity. So entities are attracted to rage as well. Here's something about alcoholics, for example. This is another reason not to take any kind of chemical that alters your consciousness forcibly. That entities want to feed off of your negative entities, I should say, want to feed off of your negative emotions. Why? Because they themselves are cut off from their own soul, if you will. And so when they're roaming around the world cut off from their Dharma, their Orlog, they're indulging in whatever their victim issues are, they start to starve of energy. And so they seek, human beings are like, capacitors, or like the energy bunny walking around with all this life force energy, and emotions have life force energy. Now, normally we have the liver. When the liver is powerful and when our boundaries are intact, then negative entities aren't attracted to us and they couldn't do anything even if they wanted to. But when there are holes in your aura, then entities want to slip in that. Now, negative entities also like to get high and get drunk. This is why shamans use mind-altering chemicals only within sacred ceremony, because they will say, that a true shaman, in the forests of wherever, the Amazon, they're not going to take anybody that comes in, which is why it's, I do not approve of these pay $1,000 and go down and take ayahuasca. I don't approve of that, because that is not how it was traditionally done. Traditionally, the shaman would see something in you and say, you need to take some medicine, which means some ayahuasca. And if they were going to have a ceremony where multiple people were going to be taking medicine, he himself wouldn't take it. And he would chant and he would drum and he would protect them. He would surround them with a protective barrier, because he knew that that chemical was going to crack open their aura. Now, negative entities like to get high just like we do. And they'll slip inside your aura and get high with you. In fact, they will push you to do more, to the point of killing you. So is somebody with bloodshot eyes because he's rageful? Does that mean that he has been mounted by a spirit like the berserkers? I don't know. I don't know enough about the berserkers to know. I can tell you, here's another thing. I remember once, speaking of which, the first exorcism I did was the scariest thing I've ever seen in my life. A friend of mine and I, this was a long time ago. I was like 15 or 16 years old. And I don't know how I knew what to do, what I did, but I did. We were at a place which now I have found out is a Native American burial ground. And I remember whenever I was on the grounds of that area, I always felt like somebody was going to push me off the cliff. I was always looking behind me. And we were there one night and we heard the lights go on and off and all. It sounded like a party was going on and nobody was there. I won't get into it, but something jumped through a doorway, because the door went and jumped into this guy. And, he started getting crazier and crazier and crazier. And I took him back to my place and I did an exorcism on him. And as I was doing that, his eyes rolled back in his head. And then he started shaking and growling. And then he opened his eyes and looked at me. His face was whiter than like the whitest sheet of paper you can get, just white. Not like pale from lack of blood, but white. His eyes were pure red, not bloodshot, but pure red. And he was looking at me, and it was the scariest thing I've ever seen. Now, there was other things there with me, and I was able to, other powerful entities there, and I was able to get that out of him. But, so I don't know. I don't know enough about berserkers. I wasn't there. I like to believe that the berserkers were channeling something that would have been helpful to them, but I don't know. There was all kinds of weird magic going on. I have no idea what they did. So to answer your question, if that's what happens to berserkers is that their eyes get bloodshot, I don't know what that is. My first reaction is that doesn't sound very healthy, but I don't know. Eddie Endra's question: what's the best way to interact with you if we only have little money? Best way to interact with me is to, I was about to say something kind of insensitive. Well, in other words, if you don't want to pay for a session with me or to pay for an apprenticeship, or, thunderwizard.com, $25 a month, you get access to all my private, teaching in-depth stuff. If that's something you don't want to do, then this is the best way to interact with me. If you want to interact with me personally, then you are going to have to pay me. And there's a, spiritual reason for that. But my response to you is you can change that. And I know that sounds really, what's the word I want? It sounds cavalier of me to say that, but I'm only, again, coming from my own personal experience. My own personal experience, I struggled with finances most of my life. But the truth of the matter is, if there's something that you really, really want, you find the finances, you find a way. Just like kind of what I'm talking about. I'm getting pushed into where I'm going to work harder now. I don't like to work, but I'm going to work harder now, and I'm going to bring in more money so that I can travel around the world and surf, because I've realized I have to do that. I'm 55. It's no more wasting time. I owe it to my soul and my physical body to go do that. So if you're feeling that you want to work with me and you feel like you don't have enough money, one of the things I do is I help people find ways to bring more money into their life. So for that, you could go to career.thunderwizard.com. I mean, sometimes my brain goes so fast that I don't even finish sentences and I say things backwards, and I felt like I just did that. So if sometimes I say things and there's, what comes out of my mouth is nonsense, it's because I've got 6 or 7 thoughts smashing into each other in my head. I'm trying to get them all out. So that's the best thing. Let's see. I recall you saying it's cheaper to do an apprenticeship than to go by book by book. I don't remember saying that, but I think I understand what you're saying. In other words, that was way back when apprenticeship was 108, and that was a hell of a lot cheaper than buying all of my books and all of my DVDs. But I just want to encourage you to get out of the cheaper method. I get it. I try to get everything as cheap as possible too, so I get it. But when it comes to doing something to change your life, you're investing in yourself. And again, I would, have to talk to you to find out how to best help you push past that. But, when you invest in yourself financially, it sends a signal to the universe that you are serious. And when the universe sees that you're serious, the universe comes to give you resources. That's my experience. So I hope I answered your question. Let's see, what else here? Just write the word question so I can see that. Hi, my question is, how do I handle intense anger against my family? It sounds like you live with your family. I get from this question that perhaps you're young and you live with them. So that is something I would have to talk with you about. I can't give you a one-word answer that's going to fix it. I'd have to know more details. And as well as getting angry at yourself, it's good that you're aware of that, because self-directed anger is the main cause for a lot of problems. And what you're really angry with at yourself, maybe you've been taught to get angry at yourself, because that's a way of controlling. Families do that, and all kinds of people do that. Religion does that. It teaches you to get angry at yourself. That's what sin is all about. Guilt is self-directed anger. So it's good that you're acknowledging that you're angry at yourself. And as long as you can not take action to do, to lash out at others or to do things to harm yourself, that's one step. I would have to talk with you I'd have to have a session with you to know what was really going on. So again, career.thunderwizard.com if you want a session with me. In terms of something that you can do, like this is again for another question somebody was asking about how do I deal with the rage. Here's another really good tool. You say this to yourself. You say, even though I have this feeling, I thoroughly and completely accept myself. Just keep repeating that. You can make a mantra out of that. Even though I have this feeling, I thoroughly and completely accept myself. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be angry at yourself as long as you don't act on it. And acknowledge that you're mad at yourself. And I do it. Listen, I feel pretty confident that I have had feelings as intense as almost anybody on here. And I still do. I still go through a lot of huge ups and downs. And that's one of the things that I do. I say, even though I have this feeling, I thoroughly and completely accept myself. Another thing I do is I talk to little Mike. Like I imagine that there's a little 4-year-old Mike. And I put him on my chest. And I say, Mike, I know that you're having whatever the feeling is. And I'm really sorry that you're going through that. It's okay. The feeling won't destroy you. Just go ahead and feel it. Sometimes it helps me to do that. So those are a couple tips that you can use. All right, let's see. Skyclad Faye, answer. What are you answering? Done this before. Go on a normal visitor's visa, then you can change it over there afterwards. It also costs less as long as you're not taking a job from an Australian. All right, I'll look into that. I think I'm going to have to talk to like an immigration lawyer. But see, the problem with that is I pay a big chunk of money to have this perfect house in this area. And I can't have 2 houses. I can live there for cheap, and I can live here and work hard, and I can live here and go on vacations. But if I go there, I want to go and not come back for a few years. I don't want to lose this, and then after 6 or 9 months, or a year, then have to come back to nothing, and then start all over again and get a crappy apartment somewhere I don't want to live. So this is it. If this doesn't work out, I'm off. I'm somewhere else. And if I can't go somewhere else, then this is it. This is where I'm going to live, at least for the future. Anyway, but thank you. I did think about that, but I'm probably going to have to talk to an immigration lawyer to find out. I could be wrong. I could be right. Thank you for coming on to the channel. If you're new to the channel, please restrict your comments to questions only so that I can focus on helping people. That's what we're trying to focus on here. Okay, I'm going to take a break. Come back. If I have something more to say, I will. And if not, we'll call it an evening. So this has been a great discussion for me. Thanks. So be right back. Durgaye Namaha, Om Dum 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 Durgaye Namaha. Okay, so by the way, that music that you heard there is from my CD, Healing Drums. No, is that Healing Mantras? I believe it's just Healing Mantras. But I have another one, which is just traditional African shamanic stuff. Very, very powerful stuff. It is Healing Drums of Power, in case you're interested. Travis Cup, question, what do you mean by crack open the aura? Just what I said. Imagine the aura is like a shell, and imagine somebody with a crowbar cracking it open. It doesn't matter, and this again doesn't take away the true tradition of using entheogens, psychedelics, hallucinogens, whatever words you want to use, power plants. The reason why you trip out on them or talk to other deities and entities is because the chemicals are forcibly going into your body and exploding holes in your aura. And I don't care which one it is. You can call it medicine, and I'm not trying to say it isn't, but even with ayahuasca, which is highly revered by people all over the world as a medicine, there are people that ayahuasca has fucked up permanently. And anything that can fuck you up permanently on, that kind of a level is a very dangerous chemical. So that's all I'm saying. Now, the reason why I don't do it is because it's, number one, it's not necessary. And number two, it's not as effective as the internal methods. This is why the Chinese stopped using them, 1,000 years ago. And same with the Vedics. The Vedics stopped using hallucinogens. The soma, which was originally drunk by the priests of Indra, was hallucinogenic. But they did all kinds of things. They put the herbs in the moonlight and they chanted mantras over them and they did all this stuff to empower it and to protect them. But even they, as they started to develop yoga and Kundalini yoga, they started to see that that was not only more effective and you could achieve greater results with that but you had no side effects. And so they, very practical, they stopped using the soma for that reason. So when I say crack open the aura, I mean exactly what I say. That stuff cracks open the aura. And then you say, what is the best way, in your opinion, to protect our aura? The best way to protect your aura is to go to qigong.thunderwizard.com. Start doing that. Celestial Qigong, or any of the Qigong that I have on my channel. If you don't want to pay for it, you can go do the Thor's Hammer Qigong on my channel. And that specifically will empower the liver, and the liver is what's going to empower the aura. There's also the Thurisage, and again, this is a meditation that, you know, in the old days, you would have had to train with me for years, and I might even charge you $1,000 before I teach it to you, so that, not just to make money off of you, but so that you would keep this as a precious secret and that you would use it because you paid so much for it. And that mudra will also empower you, right? And empower your liver and your navel center and keep your aura intact. The next thing to do is, you know, really continue to follow the stuff that I teach to the best of your ability, and understand that when you have codependent relationships with others, your boundaries are at risk. It's codependent, just by the definition of it, means that, you know, your boundaries are screwed up. So watch your, you know, this is why people were celibate monks. One of the main reasons that people became celibate monks was to empower their aura, because relationships, you know, you're sharing your aura with other people, and if you don't have a truly, you know, spiritually empowered relationship that empowers both of you, then there's a good chance that your aura is getting, you know, slightly disempowered. You know, we all got to do it. I'm not trying to be anything. I love relationships. I'd love to be in one again myself someday. All right, so let's see here. What else? Jay Berg, if I didn't acknowledge you, thank you for 1111. I get it. I've been seeing 1111, 20, you know, 333. I've been seeing these all over the place ever since I started thinking about it, and I see it everywhere. Donna Marie B33 question, 333 question: is the break music a personal one, or can it be used by anyone? I think I just gave it to you. It's Healing Mantras by me. The group that I called myself was the Healing Drum. You can go onto Amazon or iTunes and you can look for the Healing Drum by me. And that one is just simply called Durga. That's a chant. It's a chant that healing mantras. Healing mantras. Is that what I call it? Healing mantras. I did traditional West African drums to Sanskrit mantra, and so that you can chant along. You can chant those mantras with me, because I chanted at least 108 times. And so the idea is that way you don't have to get a mala and count. You just plug it in and you just chant along with me. And I think it's cool. I think the combination of the two, for me, I think is really cool. And that's me playing. That's me. I recorded every single instrument myself, you know, in separate tracks. So if you have ability to hear it, you know, you can hear all the different instruments in there. So you just take a quick listen. So that's one of the things I'm thinking of doing, is starting to teach that again, starting to perform again. I don't feel motivated to do it here in the U.S. anymore, but I can see myself doing it. Man, I can see myself doing it there. We'll see, you know. We'll see what happens. Matt Sweeney's Beer question: is the Thor's Hammer Qigong on your YouTube channel? I can't seem to find it. So I'm assuming that you know how to search from within my channel. You can just type in Thor's hammer. You can just type in Qigong. And if you go to my playlists, you should be able to see it in the Qigong playlist, but you'll find it. So my apologies for not knowing exactly where to send you, but if you look for it, you should be able to find it. Jessica Johnston question, what is the significance of the pushing and pulling of energy? I don't know what your question means. What do you mean the significance of pushing and pulling of energy? You have to give me a context. I don't know what the context is. Sorry, I don't understand your question. Okay, I don't see any more questions here. Is there anything else that I want to say? So, qigong.thunderwizard.com. That's one of the most powerful ways you can protect your energy. It's also one of the most powerful things. Let's say, I know that there are people that come on here who do chemicals. I know that there are people who do THC. I'm not going to use the word cannabis because there's CBD oil, which is not psychoactive, but THC. And one of the best ways to empower yourself if you're on THC, if you do THC, or if you're trying to get off of it, is to do Qigong, because THC, one of the things it does is it sucks all of the energy out of your aura and puts it up in your head. That's why your head feels so light, like your head is a balloon. But then what ends up happening is that as it does that, it pulls in a lot of garbage. And so you end up actually, besides whatever, impurities are in the smoke or whatever you're doing, you're pulling in impurities into your body, and it's tough on the liver. So Qigong is a very powerful way to empower the liver and heal the liver. And again, the liver is absolutely essential when it comes to personal boundaries and physical health. So since we're talking about that, thunderwizard.com. If you want to learn shamanism from the ground up, I teach you step by step from the ground up, nuts and bolts, extremely powerful shamanism, ritual, energy work, working with deities, working with the directions, all that kind of stuff. And you can go there, and that's one of the best ways to support this channel, by the way. Because if you go on to thunderwizard.com and you subscribe at whatever level you want, then that is something that comes to me every month. And I see that, and then I can plan out my teaching, how much time I have to put on videos, because it's either that or I got to work with clients. And I love working with clients, but it takes a lot of time. Eventually, I'd love to have the time to just be able to teach and do videos and all that. So when you go to thunderwizard.com, that's one of the best ways. Not only are you going to get a lot of info, but you also support me and keep me doing this. michaelwilliamdenny.com is all of my books. So if you want to see all my books in one place, you can go there. If you want the videos, let's see, where does this tell me where you can get the videos? Nope. Videos, I believe, videos.michaelwilliamdenny.com or videos.thunderwizard.com. I can't remember which, maybe both. That's where all my DVDs are. If you want a rune reading from me, you go to runereadings.thunderwizard.com. And if you want to be certified, I got to figure out a way to plug this more often. If you want to be certified in my astrology, like when you go to astrology.thunderwizard.com, you're going to see that there are astrologers underneath me. These are people who have been certified by me. And every time I point to astrology.thunderwizard.com, I am potentially giving them a client, because when they get there, they're going to see that I charge more than them. And so people like to save money, so they get readings from my apprentices. And I also give you your own page. And this is worth more than what I charge for the certification. I give you your own web page where you can put anything you want, and it's your own URL. It'll be yourname.thunderwizard.com. So joeschmo.thunderwizard.com, you can put that on your business cards or whatever, and I will put whatever other links you have on there. If you have other products and services, I will put that on your page so that you have one page that you can, a website that you can give to people. So to do that, if you want to get involved in that, you can go to astrology certification dot, please don't, I know exactly what I'm doing, spell check. Astrology certification dot thunderwizard.com, and that way you can take a look at that. I've also got for rune readings to learn how to do 9 world rune readings, and here's a picture of a 9 world rune reading I did. It is a method that I developed. I don't know if other people are doing it, perhaps they are, but it's a method that I developed of taking a snapshot of all of the 9 aspects of your personality, of your being. And it gives a very powerful snapshot on not only what's happening, but what the gods are telling you and where things are going. And if you want one, go to runereadings.thunderwizard.com. If you want to get certified in that, I'll do the same thing for you as for the astrology students. And you can go to, let me see, I got to make sure, is it rune certificate, let's just see, certification dot, see, I got to get more organized here. runecertification.thunderwizard.com, yes, that is it. So you can go there, where are we? Sorry, we are over here. You can go to runecertification.thunderwizard.com, and you can get involved in that if you want. That's just a new one that I've just put out just recently. Let's see, what else? John, question. Hello, teacher. Thank you for your valuable knowledge. You're very welcome. What can I do if I don't have a free place to practice? I don't understand the question. A free place, like to practice what? I mean, you don't have a place where you can, what, practice your, I don't know. If I'm understanding your question right, then go to a park. There are times that I've taught classes in parks because I didn't want to, spend a bunch of money on renting a studio. Find someplace out in nature. Find someplace where you can go. The thing about everything in life is this. If it means something, if it means enough to you, you find a way. Listen, you're only here once in this body. And you owe it to this body that you have and this brain that you have to experience everything it can, because once this body is dead, it can never come back. And you owe it to this body to give it the best experience you can. So whatever it is, whether we're talking about finding a place to practice or being happy or working through your issues or finding a way to surf perfect empty Australian waves for the rest of your life, you find a way. You commit and you find a way and you don't let anything stop you. So, but having said that, if I'm understanding your question right, those are a couple of suggestions I have for you. Let's see here. Skyclad Faye, question, what is the quickest way to calm yourself if your anger is berserker-like? Well, again, my response to that is I don't want to tell you to calm your anger. You're asking me to get rid of your feelings. I know a little bit about you, and that's probably not the best thing for you. Your berserker anger isn't going to destroy you. You have the choice not to act on it. But you probably haven't given yourself permission, and you probably haven't been taught to have all your feelings. Because, when you were a kid, I could be wrong, but when I was a kid, certainly if I was angry, I'd get things like, oh, stop being such a baby, or, knock it off, or, something like that. If it was my brother, my older brother, and I got angry in front of him, I'd get nailed. So I know what it's like. The feeling is really intense to want to shut off the anger. The anger is not going to do anything to you. The anger is not going to hurt you. It feels like it's killing you, but it won't. So my suggestion to you is to have the anger, stop trying to calm yourself. If you're violent with it, that's different. And then you just have the anger and you choose not to act on it. But when you're able to get past the anger, you will get to the sadness and the crying will come. I cry all the time. You probably can't tell, but I do. I cry like a baby all the time, and I do it because I don't want that shit in my system. I just don't want it. And, knock on plastic, I'm pretty fucking healthy for my age. So let's see. Or should you let it run its course, as it may hurt you if you bottle it up? So you answered your own question, which is, again, it's good to ask one question, guys. I know I appreciate it, but this is what happens. I'm too impatient. I get to the first question and I want to answer it. One question at a time is the best way for me not to offend you by jumping in before I've read your whole question. So yeah, you answered your own question. That's it. That's all there is to it. And again, that mantra, even though I have this feeling, I thoroughly and completely accept myself. Even though I have this feeling, I thoroughly and completely accept myself. It's one of the most healing things you can say to yourself. Donna Marie B 333 question. Does your apprenticeship accept PayPal credit? I believe it does. I don't do that. It's through Patreon, and I believe Patreon does. And if there's an issue, I think you can contact them and their customer service and work through it. I was just blessed to get a larger than expected limit, and your certifications were the first thing I thought of. So if we're talking about the apprenticeship to the astrology thing, yeah, I have PayPal buttons on those pages. So it is. That's how I charge people, is through PayPal. So thank you for asking. And I look forward to being able to work with you. Matt Sweeney's beer question. Are you going to open more spots on your Patreon channel at the $108 level? Thank you for asking the question. I may do that because I'm getting kind of wanting to bring more finances in. So since you've asked that, that may be the universe asking me to meditate on it, so I will meditate on that some more. By the way, I am going to be out of town. I'm going to be out of the country for 2 weeks in November. I'm going to be spending the October 31st, which is the time when the veil between the worlds is the thinnest, and that's when you can talk to the ancestors. And I'm going to be spending that in the oldest continent on the planet in November. So I don't think I will be taking any clients during those 2 weeks. So those of you who are Patreon apprentices, we may have to work some things out, or so that I can make sure that I talk to everybody in a timely fashion and talk to everybody. So I'm just letting you know. Matt Sweeney's beer. Oh, you already asked me that question. John, to practice your free meditations. I don't know what that means. I have plenty of free meditations. Plenty of them. No shortage of free meditations on there. All right, so I think that's it for me. We've had about 2 hours. I don't see any more questions. I think I've talked about this enough. So I think I've plugged all of my things. Keep your eyes open. There's going to be another Naga video. What's the name of that thing? The Naga, whatever. The Naga conspiracy. I got another Naga conspiracy video I'm working on coming out soon, so keep your eyes open for that. Anyway, my friends, thank you so much. If I haven't recently, please allow me to say to you how much I appreciate all of you. How much I appreciate you coming on and asking questions and giving me a format to get out the stuff that's inside of me, because if I don't, it drives me crazy. You're doing me a great service, and thank you for allowing me to be a part of your empowerment and your evolution. It means a great deal to me. And I know that I can be a real pain in the ass sometimes. I know I can be really harsh and direct. And while that is my strength and my style, I am always seeking how I can improve myself. And anyway, so enough of that. Bottom line is I'm just trying to say thanks. I appreciate you. Okay, so I think that's it for me. Sometimes there's a last minute question I missed. Nope. Oh yeah, there we go. John, question. What would my ancestors offer to me in this modern age? I don't understand your question. What would they offer you? Instead of asking that, why don't you go and worship them and find out? Find out. One of the things that you will get by worshiping your ancestors is that your soul will be more empowered within itself. You will heal on very deep levels that you can't fathom yet. And the easiest way to do that is do the Hul breath facing southwest. Hul breath facing southwest. If you don't know what the Hul breath is, go onto my channel or go onto YouTube and type it in. That is one of the ways to acknowledge the ancestors, and you can ask, as you're doing that meditation, you can ask them, what do they want from you and what do they want to give to you? What do they want to tell you? Trust me, if you do that, you will find out. Maybe not in 10 minutes or a day or two, but at some point, they will contact you in some way and let you know what it is that they can do for you and what you need to do for them, because we owe them some things also. All right, that's it for me, my friends. I'll talk to you maybe tomorrow, depending on what happens. Okay, see you later.
Om Dum Durgaye Namaha. 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 Om Dum Om Dum Durgaye Namaha. 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 Om Dum Durgaye Durgaye Namaha